Hey guys, happy Halloween. Today I want to talk about a black thriller or scary movie that has just recently come out called Bad Hair. If you haven't seen this movie, you need to go to Hulu and check it out and support Justin Seaman, who is the director, who also directed Dear White People in 2014, the movie. So sit back, get your popcorn, and let's talk about this movie. So, over the last few years, we've been seeing the social thriller become more and more popular. It was popularized by Jordan Peele with the movie Get Out to start us off. And then from there, we got Us. He's also working on Candyman. And then also, they gave him the Twilight Zone remake series on CBS. So he's been doing that as well. And what's so great about the social thriller, the way that he's taken it on is talking about some uncomfortable issues that we don't necessarily see on TV, but doing it in a nuanced way to get everybody to kind of understand the themes and the points he's trying to make. So it happens to be a good movie with the social commentary in the background, and it's really become popular. So it doesn't surprise me that other writers and directors have decided to try to do this for themselves and make satire type movies, bringing in Justin Seaman, who is the writer and the director of Bad Hair. Now, social commentary is not something that's foreign to Justin because he is the director and writer of Dear White People. And then, of course, the series that was on Netflix, Dear White People, that ran from 2017 to, I believe, 2019. So I was excited to see what he was going to bring into this movie as a social thriller for Bad Hair. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of details about the movie because I really think we should go and support it and check it out. But I am going to give my opinion, and I am going to give you a brief overview of the story. So let me start off with that. So the story follows a young girl. We see her at the beginning of the movie, and she is getting her hair done. She's getting a perm put in. So now I want to point out, as somebody who used to get perms on a regular basis, your hair is not supposed to look like this. But I'm pretty sure they didn't want to put the authentic chemicals in this little girl's beautiful hair. So they just kind of did something, whatever. And I guess it still kind of drives home the point that the perm is not, it's not natural. It doesn't look good. And the girl was doing it wrong. And that's why they had a mishap with it. But regardless, so you see her trying to get a perm. It goes wrong. And she has this permanent scar on the back of her head that keeps her from doing anything significant with her hair. It allows her to wear her hair natural from that point on. Then we meet her years later. It's 1989, and we see her working. She's older, but she's still wearing her hair natural. We see her company going through some changes as far as management goes, and these changes required that their staff make changes. So in 1989, you see a more hip culture of black women who are wearing their hair natural. They're still coming down from like the 70s where the afro was really big and everything like that, before weaves and perms and everything were just like the thing, the most prominent thing that you had to have in order to fit in. And you see this kind of take over in her company. The main character, Anna, is starting to feel a little left out, and she is told by her boss that maybe she needs to make a change, which brings us to the whole idea of her hair being changed. And with her hair being changed, she does get it weaved in. She gets a sew-in. And the one thing I do truly love that they showed in this movie is how painful sew-ins can be, especially if you've never had one before. How heavy and how hard that hair is and the needle is and everything really is. You really get a chance to see that pain and that anguish in her face. But anyway, she gets it done, and then hijinks ensues and crazy stuff starts happening because the hair, of course, is evil. It wouldn't be a thriller unless something was bad or evil, so I don't think I spoiled anything with that. And in the midst of all of that, there of course is some social threads or points that are brought up throughout the movie about Black women wearing weaves, trying to assimilate to a Western European culture that doesn't really apply to us or should have never applied to us. So, of course, it ends with her realizing all of this and learning a better lesson. But then there is, of course, a cliffhanger, which you have to watch the movie to see. Now, that's the basic premise of the story without actually spoiling the whole thing. What I want to talk about next are the actual themes. Now, again, I'm going to try my best not to spoil it, but the themes or the satire that is addressed in this story, of course, is the assimilation to Western European culture, which is what I mentioned earlier. The fact that Black women felt like they either had to perm their hair or had to weave their hair or straighten their hair in order to fit into a mostly white society where they were looked at differently for wearing their natural hair, which is a very good and interesting theme. The only issue or the biggest issue that I have with the movie when it comes to that is it ultimately forms weaves and, fake hair as bad. No way around it. It's like if you don't wear your hair natural or you don't just let it grow out of your head the way it's supposed to and try to do anything else different, that's ultimately bad in disregarding your culture. And the problem I have with that is that it disregards the fact that Black women aren't the only ones that wear fake hair. You do also have white women who wear phony hair or clip-ins or weaves or sew-ins. Asian women, Mexican women, Latino women, all of these different nationalities wear weaves and clip-ins and, things like that in their hair as well. So to push the point that a Black woman doing it is evil, it's kind of not a nuanced portrayal of the situation at hand. Now, granted, I get what he was going for because he definitely wanted his audience to know that you don't need this to be beautiful. You can wear your hair however you like and you can still be beautiful. But by doing that or giving that message, you also have to send the message that however you like to wear your hair could include wearing weaves, wearing braids, wearing fake hair or sew-ins or anything like that. Like, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be doing it to fit into a society. You should be doing it because that is who you are and that is how you want yourself to be seen as a person. So, of course, we don't have time for that. It's supposed to be a scary movie, so we have to focus on the scary aspect of putting fake hair and trying to match standards that don't apply to you necessarily. Another theme that they were going for in this movie is they wanted to bring up the idea that Black lore or history is hidden from us. So one thing they kept talking about over and over in this movie is a book that was being passed around between Anna and her family about slave lore and some of the stories and the beliefs that the slaves had that were lost over time and how it affects how we see ourselves and what we know about ourselves to this day. So I actually do appreciate that because that is a big theme in life right now where we are slowly learning more and more about our history, and even with the lore and the mythology of Black slaves or African history, there is some importance to that, just like there's importance to Greek history. Greek mythology has a mind and a life of its own, and the fact that it's not necessarily true, or if it is true, it's a part of their history. So knowing that is important. So they do hammer that home. They also point out the fact that wearing this hair or feeling like you have to fit into this mold kind of makes everybody feel more cult-like. So there's one interesting point where the name of the company that she's working for goes from culture to cult. And the cult of the situation is all of these women feeling like they have to be or look a certain way in order to be beautiful. So they pick up these standards that kind of make them all look the same. And that's something that's really present even today. Like I've often talked about how so many of the Instagram models get so much of the same work done, or they change their pictures enough where they all look the same. They all have the same shapes and faces and lips and everything like that. And it's almost like we've become clones of each other instead of being individuals. But there's more than one way to be beautiful. Being beautiful doesn't mean the same thing all the way around. And it's important that we take pride in what makes us beautiful individually instead of trying to become a cult of people who all look the same. And I think that's a theme that he's trying to touch on in this movie as well, because after the women start getting their hair weaved in, they all kind of blend in together. They all almost have like the same hairstyle, and they have the same mindset. They think the same, they doing the same things. There's something to be said about trying so hard to fit in that you lose your individuality. And that's one of the themes he really wanted to point out. And that's one of the things I think is important for us now. Is it's important that we don't lose our individuality trying to be what everyone else thinks is beautiful, or what's beautiful for one person at that time. So there are a lot of interesting themes. There is good. Of course, by the end of it all comes back to the white man holding us down and lying to us and making the choice for us in a sense. But, you know, that's to be expected. If you've seen any of my earlier videos, then you know I'm big on character development. So, you know, usually when I'm breaking down a movie or a TV show or anything like that, I'm talking about the characters, what they learn, how they grow, all of that. The reason why I don't do that in this movie per se is because honestly, the movie was more about the satire and the themes that it was presenting than the characters. So I found myself not really feeling connected to the characters almost at all. They really didn't spark any emotion in me. Like even the main character, Anna, I kind of get her story and where she was coming from, but everything about her was so over the top to sell the fact that why she would want to go get this weave so she can fit in, that it took away from her actual character development and her story. So even though she comes out better on the end, the journey itself just wasn't that intriguing on her end. Like the story of the hair and the creepiness behind that is actually more impactful than the story of Anna as the person. And it's the same thing with everybody else, because nobody else actually gets a chance to get any type of development. Basically, the biggest person who's developed in the story is Anna, and she's the one that she wasn't interesting. So that lets you know with the rest of the how the rest of the characters really didn't shine or anything like that. The biggest part of this movie was the themes and the fact that how the hair affected our culture and how that culture affected us as a people. But outside of that, you really didn't want to spend too much more time with the characters or care that much about them and the outcomes of what happened. Because after a few of them were killed off, you were just like, okay. Like, I didn't have any emotional attachment to any of the people who died. And once you didn't see them anymore in the movie, I honestly forgot about them. There were certain people that I didn't even know. I wasn't sure if they were actually dead or if they were saved too. I don't know, because it really didn't make you care enough about them to wonder that. So I was a little disappointed in that, because I definitely wanted more character development. I love character driven stories because I feel like when you connect with the characters in the story, you can place yourself in that situation and you can follow along with them. But because they didn't have that, you couldn't do that. So it took away from that aspect of the story. Again, the themes were really good and I get where he was going for, but I just felt like they were giving way too much energy to those themes and not enough to the story in itself. So by the end of the whole thing, the movie was okay. I'm not the hugest fan of it, but it was really funny, really good satire. It had its purpose in the genre, and like I said, I am supportive of the writer and director who has made great things in the past, and I want to see him continue to make great movies. I don't know if this was necessarily his niche, but he did well with what he had, with the knowledge he had on the subject matter, and I can appreciate him giving these actors and actresses a chance to shine, because outside of the fact that the characters themselves didn't really pull you in, the actors really did a good job at making the story interesting on their own. Like, you can see them really acting their butts off in this movie, and I can appreciate that, even though I couldn't fall in love with their characters. Definitely something you should want to watch and invest your time into, especially if you're just sitting at home a Saturday night and you just want to learn some stuff, laugh at some stuff, and be a little freaked out about some stuff. Go ahead and give this movie a watch. I definitely want to give it about a 6.5 out of 10. All in all, it was a pretty good movie, and I encourage you all to invest in it. Thank you so much for joining me for this Saturday movie review. I will try my best to keep this updated and review movies every other Saturday. I'm not going to commit to every Saturday because that's too much right now, but every other Saturday. So please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and make sure you come back not next Saturday, but the Saturday after that for another video. Bye.